Thom Hartmann here with you. Greg Palast on the line with us. Greg is, of course, the brilliant investigative journalist, author, filmmaker. His most recent movie, the best documentary, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. You can find it, all the local, at your favorite places, including Amazon. GregPalast.com, of course, his website, and you can tweet him at Greg_Palast, P-A-L-A-S-T. Greg, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be with you, Tom.
It is always great having you on, Greg. So you have some insight based on your years of reporting and your knowledge of Alabama and Karl Rove, et cetera. Some insight into what's what with the Alabama election. Thoughts?
Well, first, how about a little good news, okay?
Okay.
Number one, just a few minutes ago, the great voting rights attorney John Brakey won a temporary restraining order to require all Alabama counties to keep copies of the ballots. Now, you might say, hey, wait a minute. Doesn't everyone keep copies of ballots? Not in Bama. That's called the Siegelman Steal. In 2002, Governor Don Siegelman, the Democrat, won. They closed the Baldwin County courthouse, and suddenly they said, oh, they found several thousand more votes for his opponent, the current governor, and Siegelman was removed from office by these mystery ballots. The Republicans said anyone who tries to look at those ballots would be arrested. The so-called new ballots that they found, thousands, there's no record. No one has, they just announced a number. This time a judge has said, you know what? You're not going to do that again. That's quite amazing, including it will apply not only to Baldwin County, but to every county in Alabama. They're going to have to keep records of all the scans of the ballots because the machines, by the way, these voting machines today are very sophisticated. They take an image of the ballot, time it, number it in order. It's very difficult to get around these machines if the ballot imaging is turned on and those ballots are not thrown in the electronic trash.
Yeah,
this is a big move for protection. Now that only leaves 9 more ways that they're going to steal the vote tomorrow in Alabama.
Okay, 9 more ways. So let us count them.
All right, I'm laughing because the destruction of in my film Best Democracy Money Could Buy, I end it and spent a lot of time in Alabama, so we can count the ways. I won't have time for all of it, but start with number 1, the infamous system of cross-check we talked about. You'll see in my film Senator Hank Sanders, an African American who represents Selma, Alabama, was removed from the voter rolls because of the cross-check system. That's just one. Then there's something called caging, which is illegal, at least till next week, believe it or not. The rules against it expire next week, but I think that it looks like Alabama's trying it already. What is caging? You send a letter to black students at black colleges in the summer when they're not there, but they're registered at their college. The letter comes back and as undelivered, and they challenge the student voter, when they mail in their ballot or appear to vote. They do the same thing to soldiers overseas. They send black soldiers letters to their voting addresses in Alabama when there's no response from when the letter's sent back because the soldier's overseas, but they have a legal voting address in Alabama. Again, when they send in their vote from overseas, their absentee ballot, it will be challenged. They don't know it. They lose their vote. That's called voter caging. And who is in charge of voter caging, this illegal operation under the Bush campaign? From the inside documents we obtained, it's a guy named Brett Doster. Who is the campaign manager for Judge Moore? Brett Doster, the caging king. He's not a very good campaign manager, but he's a very good vote thief. That's just a couple of the tricks. Plus, let me give you one more that was in the film. It's his ID. The day, well, actually within hours of the U.S. Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act on June 25th, 2013, Alabama, within hours, required a photo voter ID, which could only be obtained from the Department of Motor Vehicles. And the very next day, they eliminated almost every DMV in the 10 black belt counties. So they say, you got to get this ID, and guess what? We're closing all the offices, so you can't get the ID in the black belt counties.
Black belt meaning the parts of Alabama that are largely African American.
Yes, though I have to tell you, the name Black Belt actually comes from the fact that that's where the plantations were because of the black earth. But it's come to be seen as the 10 counties where you have 75% minority population. And guess what? You ain't getting no ID, my friend, if you live in those places. Very, very difficult. That's just 4 of the 10 ways that they steal. Looks like one may be overturned by this terrific last-minute legal action by John Brakey and his team. Congratulations.
How did they find a judge who hadn't been appointed by a Republican?
Holy cow, I just got off the phone, and I said, wow, and you have to understand, Don Siegelman complained about the vote theft in 2002. He said, count the ballots. And so they came up with these fake charges. He was put in jail for years on these crazy. It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen of a political attack just for his complaint about vote theft. That was Don Siegelman, and it was controlled by judges appointed that were selected by Karl Rove, the Republican political operative. Yeah, usually you run into. It's a very tough place to get civil rights enforced in Alabama. We are going backwards, back across the bridge at Selma in the wrong direction, back into Jim Crow voting. So tomorrow, these Jim Crow systems could be the difference, but at least there's one little victory, and I hope it's repeated elsewhere.
Yeah, we're talking with Greg Palast, the investigative reporter. I've got a copy of the ballot that's going to be, the people are going to be voting on tomorrow. And basically it has 3 things. There's a ballot initiative to, I think, raise the millage to support the schools. And then there is a straight ticket vote, Democratic ticket, Republican ticket. And then below that is vote for Senator Roy Moore or Doug Jones. And my understanding is if you both circle Democratic straight ticket and Doug Jones, or for that matter, Republican straight ticket and Roy Moore, your ballot will immediately be thrown away because that's considered an overvote. You have filled in too many. Yeah, you've filled in too many little circles in the ballot. Where is that most likely to have a lot of impact?
Well, again, one of the problems is that Moore's had the money, and so it's a voter education issue. In many states have this problem. It was true in Michigan too during the close race in 16. You have what's called ballot spoilage. It's one of the 10 ways, so you just got the 5th one, of spoiling your ballot. And what they do is they'll say, well, you voted Democratic Party straight ticket and you voted Jones, and that's 2 votes. No, it ain't. And in fact, in most states, that would not count as 2 votes. It wouldn't be a spoiled ballot. But the way that they have set their machines in Alabama, you lose on a technicality. Now, you have to understand, until Bush v. Gore, the United States Supreme Court was really clear that the voter intent rules. You can't play games. You can't do gotcha. Oh, you voted Democrat and you voted for the Democrat. That's 2 votes. No. Before Bush v. Gore, voter intent was everything. And if you couldn't play games with a ballot, if a judge saw a ballot marked in that way, they'd say, well, it's obviously the intent of the voter is to vote Democratic. But you have this problem. Also, you have a problem that these ballots are read by machines. The worst machines are put in the poorest majority black counties. And it's those machines which are most likely to reject what the machine considers 2 votes, or in the fancy language is overvote.
And they've had rejection rates as high as 30%, haven't they? In some of the poorer counties.
Yeah, and so that's one of the problems. You have crappier machines which have a tough time overriding the idiocy. Plus, you'll have Alabama say, well, you can't, for example, unless you keep records, you can't recount those votes. And that's what Brakey wanted today. At least we can get the records and recount.
Greg Palast. Hey, hang on just a second, Greg.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Check it all out at gregpalast.com. You can tweet him at Greg_Palast. Greg, thanks so much.
You're very welcome, Tom.
Good talking with you.